Hi, good evening, and welcome to tonight's Parent University, Becoming an Elementary School Parent. My name is Dawn Forkner. I am the Indian Prairie School District 204 SEL and Wellness Coordinator. If this is your first time having a child enter school, welcome to the 204 community. Thank you to everyone for joining us tonight for an important discussion on preparing young students and their parents for the transition to elementary school, namely kindergarten and first grade. As educators and parents, we know that students thrive when they have a strong foundation in social and emotional learning skills. The ability to take turns, make new friends, advocate for themselves, and work cooperatively with others is key to being successful, not only in school, but in life. Tonight's presentation will not be focused on things like math or reading or academic. While these things are important, they will be addressed during building curriculum nights in the fall. Instead, we will share ways to help your child develop these important SEL skills before and during kindergarten and the first grade. Our presenters for this evening are Tracy Schwartz and Brooke Auden. Tracy is a social, emotional, and learning coach at Longwood Elementary, and Brooke is a kindergarten teacher at Graham Elementary. Both have a wealth of knowledge with working with our young learners. At the end of the presentation, we'll have a panel discussion based on the questions that were submitted on the registration. Our panel experts include Erin Rodriguez, principal at Young Elementary, Rachel Witkowski, student service coordinator at Peterson Elementary, and soon to be the principal at Graham Elementary, Rianne Cascanaro, social worker at Kendall Elementary, Luke Rotchen, kindergarten teacher at Georgetown Elementary, Samantha Olnick, kindergarten teacher at Welch Elementary, and Mary Molick, first grade teacher at Owen Elementary. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our presenters, Tracy and Brooke.
Thank you, Dawn. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight for Becoming an Elementary School Parent. As Dawn said, I'm Tracy Schwartz. I'm a school counselor and the SEL coach at Longwood Elementary School here in District 204. And I'll let Brooke introduce herself real quick.
I'm Brooke Auden. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Graham. This is my 5th year teaching kindergarten at Graham, but my 7th year teaching. I previously taught first grade before I taught kindergarten. Welcome, everyone.
All right, Dawn, if you want to go ahead. So as Dawn kind of gave you a prelude, we're talking about this whole idea of what is SEL or social emotional learning. Just to kind of define what social emotional learning is, it's really an integral part of your child's education and development, just as much as math and reading. So social emotional learning, it's the process by which our kids are learning how to navigate the world on that social level, making friends, interacting with others, how to develop relationships. And we're also talking about managing of emotions, learning our feelings, how to help develop healthy identities, develop empathy for others, and then make responsible and good decisions for themselves. So it is definitely a focus throughout our day, not only at kindergarten and first grade, but all throughout your kids' years of learning in District 204. So I wanted to just break down those SEL skills a bit. The source for this, District 204 has adopted the work of CASEL, which is casel.org. I have the source there listed for you on the site. CASEL is an organization that's done a lot of work, a lot of research and study into what are those main areas of growth and development we want to see for our kids. And they're broken down into self-management and self-awareness. We'll break those down a little bit more as we go throughout our presentation today. We also talk about social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. So just kind of wanted to give you an overview of those areas. What I do want you to be aware of, or we want you to know, is that within District 204, one of the ways we teach SEL skills is using a social emotional learning curriculum. What I do want to say in preface of that, especially at the kindergarten and first grade levels, those SEL skills and learning is embedded all throughout your child's day. our kindergarten and first grade teachers are very skilled at making all those kind of natural learning moments become teachable moments between peers and learning emotion regulation, waiting your turn, sharing with a peer, all those types of things that Dawn had mentioned earlier. But beyond that, we do teach directly using a program called Second Step. If you have older children in the district, you might be familiar with it. We have been slowly rolling this out at the different schools throughout 204 at the elementary level. And there are several units of learning in the kindergarten scope and sequence, which is very similar to first grade. There are many, many lessons broken down into those 4 units you'll see there. Skills for learning. Those are things like, how do I pay attention? How do I sit still? How do I focus? With some very age appropriate and fun ways for kids to develop the stamina for those things. And Brooke will go into those a little bit more. In that second unit, we really talk about empathy. What is it like to walk in someone else's shoes? Can we imagine how someone else can feel? And that really becomes a big part of their learning, because empathy and the development of empathy really helps them in developing those social relationships with peers. In unit 3, we go into emotion management. There's a lot of talk about feelings in kindergarten and first grade, identifying feelings not only in ourselves, but in other people. And then with emotion management, we focus a lot about how we handle being angry, being frustrated, being upset, as well as how do we handle when we're feeling silly or giggly or whatever. So we learn about time and place and management of those things. And then lastly, we talk about problem solving. There's Second Step has some great resources for parents. Your teachers, as you get into kindergarten and first grade, will share more of this with you. But there are some home links that accompany many of those lessons. I encourage you to always be checking your child's backpack. That's our first tip on becoming a kindergarten and first grade parent. Always go through their backpack with them, learn about what they're learning, ask them questions, be curious. And another great resource, I think, on the Second Step website is resources for parents, particularly book lists for kids and for you. So that's just an overview of our Second Step, and you will certainly be learning more about it as your kids enter into kindergarten and first grade. All right, so as we begin to talk tonight about where the target is for your child at age 5 and 6 as they're entering kindergarten and first grade, and talking about school preparedness, we put a little information in here about what are typical developmental yardsticks for 5 and 6-year-olds. What do we know about them? In general, and these are generalizations, and of course there's always exceptions, but in general, 5 and 6-year-olds have a lot of need for movement. They like to be active and moving and physical. We know that their attention spans are short. We know that we need to be switching things up and moving them along very frequently. And Brooke will be talking more about that as we talk about the day in the life of a kindergartner. But when we talk about also that language and social emotional development, I think one of the biggest things that we as educators really want to stress to you, is especially new parents coming into school, is that although growth and development follows reasonably predictable patterns, not all children progress at the same pace. And that's really important, because I know it becomes very easy to start comparing one child to another within your own home, as well as your child to a neighbor or a peer or someone else that you know of the same age. And it's just important to be mindful that they do grow at their own rates. Growth is also uneven. All of a sudden we'll have this big learning curve or this big spurt, and all of a sudden we think they've really got it, and then things kind of slow down again, and we're regrouping, and then we're digging in deeper again. That is very typical of development at this age. And the last thing I would really want you to be thinking about as you begin to enter the school year, and I know Brooke will touch on this more too, is that your child at home may look different than your child at school. And there are many factors for that, but one of them is keeping in mind that when your child enters school, it's not anymore just about them, right? It's about them navigating in a classroom of maybe 15 to 18 to 20 or 20 plus peers, learning how to share one teacher, how to share time, how to wait, and then the impact of the social components of working with peers. I think as I think back to when my own kids were growing, it was always very interesting for me to know my child at home, but to listen to and learn from my child's teacher about what my child looked like at school. And really trust that they know my child and they have their best their best interest at heart, so that as we begin to work together, we begin to kind of weave this full picture of who your kindergartner and first grader are. All right, before I kind of pass the baton over to Brooke here in a minute, I thought this was a really powerful study research finding. This was printed in the American Journal of Public Health. Kindergartners who are stronger in SEL competencies are more likely to graduate from high school, complete a college degree, and obtain stable employment in young adulthood. So I guess that is one of the answers to why do we teach this SEL stuff so much? You know, parents sometimes want to know more. Well, what exactly is it? And what exactly are you teaching them? And what are they gaining from that? The reason we've really focused on this is that research has shown to us that social and emotional skills are really the foundation to all learning. And those are essential skills to being able to navigate a very quickly changing world that we live in today, with the different demands that are placed on them academically, socially, athletically, et cetera. That is why this has really become an important part of our foundational learning within our district for all of our young students. All right, and with that, I'm going to hand it over to our kindergarten teacher guru, Brooke, to kind of go through some more specifics for you.
Awesome, thank you. So we're going to take a look at what Tracy would call a kindergarten day, but before we do that, Tracy did a really nice job of outlining the importance of SEL and how children need to access those SEL skills to be able to really truly grasp and, thrive with academic content. So having these skills is a preset for being able to access their academic skills and be able to focus and learn more things at school. But along with those developmental yardsticks, and I know Tracy also talked a little bit about how that looks different for every child. And a big question we get in kindergarten is, is my child ready? Parents are a little nervous and a little, always wondering if their child is ready, but truly we know that kids grow at different rates, and wherever your child is at, that is our job as kindergarten and first grade teachers, teachers just in general, but to take your child where they're at and help them grow where they're at. So that is, if you're feeling nervous or you're feeling like you don't know if your child's quite ready yet, just take a deep breath, because the moment they enter our door, we're going to take them where they're at and love them and help them grow. But we're going to take a little bit of a look at what that looks like in the classroom. Those second step units are kind of broken down into skills for learning. And as we're going through it, you might be thinking, oh, my child can do that. My child has that. My child has grasped that skill a little bit. And there might be a few where you might pause and think, oh, that, but just as we go on, we'll talk a little bit about a growth. And I encourage you to also have a growth as you're thinking through what your children are able to do or what they still may need to work on as they're entering or getting ready for kindergarten. But that first unit is all about skills for learning. So that this is, first day of school, and for the first couple of weeks, this is, all year, but this is what we really focus on. So to be able to come in the classroom and focus their attention and being able to listen with attention, those are those first few skills. And what that looks like, what we like to call that as whole body listening. So, this is something that we'll work on from the very beginning of the year is, focusing your attention on the teacher, on the directions, and being able to listen with attention. So some of the ways we do that in school is, focusing your attention. We have attentoscopes we might put up to focus their attention on the speaker or the adult. And talking through whole body listening. So another way we do this is we encourage, the children to, eyes are watching. So we want their eyes to be on the speaker, listening ears are on. focusing on calming their bodies and having a distraction-free environment. So those are some of the ways that we, how kids are learning at the carpet, learning with peers, just all throughout their day. Some other skills for learning that we focus on within the classroom is a big one is being assertive. At the beginning of the year and throughout the year, a lot of kids, sometimes might be a little bit afraid to ask for things, or if they need a need met, they might be feeling, shy or uncomfortable. So we're going to work on those skills to be able to advocate for themselves. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to build that independence and that self-help skills as well. The second unit is, we'll move on to perfect. The second unit within that second step curriculum is empathy, which Tracy talked a lot about. The big one with empathy and how it relates to the classroom is kind of helping kids understand that they're part of the learning community. So we spend a lot of time building our learning community and making sure that kids feel part of the group. And when Tracy was even speaking more towards helping kids understand different perspectives and that they're not the only one that needs attention, where a teacher now has 15 to 20 kids, knowing that they have, they can't take up your entire attention, that the teacher has 15 to 20 other students. So that's another big one, is that being part of a learning community. So understanding how their actions and words might affect their friends, how it affects their feelings. And this is a great unit to help build vocabulary and help kids understand, oh, Mrs. Auden is now talking to this friend. I would love to hear your thoughts. Can you wait just 1 minute? And I'd love to hear your thoughts. So giving them opportunities to practice those skills, to remind them that they're part of that learning community, but still a valuable member as well. So the third unit is that emotion management. And there's a really wonderful within this that's not second step that we'll share a little bit later. But this is a big one for kids, is to how to help handle those big emotions. Because we know when they're coming to school, they might have some big emotions and they don't have their comfort, which is their parents, at school with them. So helping them not only be able to handle their emotions, have them handled at school when maybe things don't go their way or they don't get a choice in things, because there are things throughout the day that they obviously will have a choice, and other things that are part of the schedule and the routine. And that might not be their choice. So helping kids being able to manage those strong emotions at school and giving them those strategies to be able to do that independently are part of this unit as well. And the last one, and something we're working on all year, is that problem solving. So this relates to, a big one relates to those friendship. I feel like a lot of kids sometimes will need a lot of help in the area of having friendship problems, or out on the playground or within the classroom. Things like being first in line, handling when things don't go their way, or they're playing a game together and one friend wants to do one thing where another friend wants to do another, and just kind of helping them work through those skills. This unit specifically is a lot of modeling. So things that we're doing in the classroom to help model that might be, that's using words like big and small problem, so we can handle that emotion management. So we could start off by saying, that sounds like is this a big or a small problem? Let's talk through ways that we can work through this together. So in the beginning of the year, that might look like a teacher or an adult giving them multiple different solutions and helping them through their problem. And now more towards the end of the year, now that we have a collection of strategies to be able to work through those solutions, we're kind of encouraging the kids to try to solve those problems on their own. So that now is looking like, it sounds like you have a problem to your friend about that. Or how did that make you feel? It sounds feeling upset still. Maybe we need to go have a conversation. So both, so you're feeling good about it as well. So a lot of these units are really great for helping not only their skills for learning, but helping them problem solve within the classroom. And those skills will then translate to friendship and to things when things get a little bit harder as they get older. So having these strategies in their pockets is really a big goal, is for all those kids to have those solutions and those if they're having a problem, having the solutions to be able to solve it on their own. Because the goal is, sometimes your kids might be coming to you, helping you, I have a problem, and we might be trying to do our best and solve it for them, but really helping them through those problems by talking out solutions together, helping them pick the best one, or giving them, 2 or 3 different ways to then go try to solve it themselves is really the goal, is to help them become independent problem solvers moving forward.
Okay. So educators top 10. Actually, it's only a top 8, but that's okay. You'll see as we go. So what we did was last spring, about this time at the end of the year, as we're wrapping up the near end of a school year, we had asked all of our kindergarten and first grade teachers across the district to really give us their top tips, advice, things they would want parents to know as they are preparing for a new school year. So these are their top 10. So John, these are each one a fade in here. So I'm going to keep you busy. One of the things they feel is really helpful to our kids coming in is to provide them, your child, with opportunities to play with other kids. So as we're coming up on the summer, whether that is siblings, cousins, and others their age, it's also nice for them to be able to have opportunities to either meet new kids at the library or at a park, or if you're at a pool, how do I encourage them to go up and say hello and introduce themselves by name and ask, would you like to play with me? Educators feel that is one way you can really be helping to build some of these early skills for your school, for your kids, so they're more prepared for school. The second one that they, as we summarize their input, was to encourage your child's independence and build those problem-solving skills. So as Brooke just mentioned, they are definitely a part of what we are teaching in kindergarten, first grade, and honestly, all throughout their 12 years of public education. So we are not looking for mastery here. We are looking for ways that you can begin to build some of those foundational skills. So an example of building your child's independence between now and the start of the school year, allowing them to, or encouraging them to, clean up their own play area and space, cleaning up their own lunch space. They'll be doing that when they get into school in the fall. How do they unzip or zip up their lunch bag? How do they pack it back up? How do they open different things? Throwing their own trash away. They're going to be expected, as we get into the school year, to be able to independently do those things as opposed to waiting for someone else to do them for them. Problem-solving skills, like Brooke said earlier, asking questions. Well, what do you think we could do about this? How do you think we might be able to problem solve this? What do you know about this that we might be able to use to help us solve whatever issue, they're building? So beginning to really ask questions to help them begin to start thinking through some of their own solutions. The third thing is, and this is once school starts, but really be curious about your child's school day and ask them fun questions, instead of how was school today? Because you're going to get, maybe fine, good, great. Some of our kids are very, full of information and they'll tell you a lot, but not all of them are. So asking questions such as, what was the most fun thing you did today? Who did you meet that was new today? Did you make a new friend today? Who did you help at school today? Who helped you at school? What was your favorite moment of the day? Asking them all different types of questions to get more specific shows your curiosity for school. It helps build the importance of school and shows them how much it is a priority for you, and building that in them too. The fourth one, between now and then and as school continues, just play games with your kids. Card games, board games, guessing games while you're in the grocery store. Oh, can we find 3 red fruits? What did you see? I Spy games. They love things like that. All of those types of games help to build language. They build those verbal skills. They build communication skills. And again, it's engagement with you. And if we've learned anything post-pandemic, our kids are longing for connection with their adults. They really just want to, be able to connect with you and be part of things with you and doing things alongside you. So play games and have some fun. Talk about your feelings and building that vocabulary. whether that's how you yourself are feeling and modeling that for them, sharing, I feel frustrated. I am so excited because I am sad today, but it's okay. And talking through those things and expanding that vocabulary a little bit. Don't be afraid to talk about feelings. And then 6, let your child fail. They're going to fail. We all do. It's part of learning and it's part of growing up. And if they fail, okay, what did we learn from it? What can we do different next time? How did you manage that? How did they handle the feeling of failing, whether it's losing a game or striking out in t-ball or missing a goal in soccer or, whatever it is that they're doing and you are doing together. They're going to fail. It's inevitable. And so don't be afraid to let that happen and use it as a teachable moment. 7, I can't stress this one enough, is really being mindful of your own management of your own emotions. Our kids are sponges. They're watching us all the time. They're half listening to us, but they see everything. They notice the way our body moves. They read our verbal, nonverbal expressions. They hear the sigh in our voice. They really notice those things. And one thing I, also want to point out is that kids at this age are all about them, right? Everything is about them. They want everything to be about them. And so they also, when they see us as their adults and caregivers upset, unhappy, or whatever, they also think that's about them. When we are excited and overjoyed, they think it's about them. So the reason I make that point is that it is very important for us as the adults at this stage in life to really be mindful of how we're managing our own emotions and showing healthy ways to be able to do that, so that we can help them develop those skills too. And then the last one, really important as well, especially between now and the beginning of the school year, is establishing routines. Whether that's bedtime, morning routines, self-care routines. Brooke will talk about this again in a little bit later, but routines are everything about kindergarten and first grade. Kids like predictable, safe environments. They thrive on consistency and routines. Even if they push back sometimes and it doesn't always feel like that as the parent, that is really something that serves them well. So the more that you can get into some of those, first at bedtime, we are going to put our pajamas on, then we brush our teeth, then we wash our face, then we read a book and we turn the light off. Consistency and routine becomes very important. And the sooner you start, you will thank yourself. It will make the beginning of the school year an easier transition for all of you. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about what you can be doing from home. We've touched on some of these things. Brooke's going to talk more about some of these academic pieces and part of the day in a kindergartner, first grader. But just to kind of round up these SEL skills, talking about a growth mindset and the power of yet. What we really mean by that is, yeah, maybe we don't know how to do that yet, but we can get there. Maybe you're not tying your shoelaces yet, but you'll learn. Maybe you aren't, able to write your name yet, but I bet if we keep practicing and we try it in all different ways, we'll get there. So really encouraging and using that language of growth and moving forward. Encourage your child to check in with their emotions throughout the day. Again, that's a lot of that talking about feelings. I can see that you're angry. It looks like you're sad. I don't know. Maybe you're mad at me right now, and that's okay. Do you want to tell me about it? And talking about how our feelings can change when we do something different, or we use a coping skill, or we change an activity. So just talking about it, modeling those things like we talked about, expression of feelings. And then lastly, really encouraging your child to persist in those tasks when they get hard. Because school is going to be challenging for some. In some areas, for others are going to be more challenging than other areas. And if not in kindergarten, it will happen someday. So we really want to help them push through when something is not coming right away. You know what? Try it again. You know what? Let's take another minute or two and we'll get there. So the last thing I want to share, this is just one particular resource. Brooke and I both happen to use, you can go to that next one, Dawn. In school, and I know a lot of our teachers do, but it's the little spot books, and it's an easy set. Kids really relate to them. It talks about all the different types of emotions. So as we're talking about this emotion and feelings management, if this is something you were interested in knowing more about, this is a great resource. You can find it at your local bookstore, Amazon, and chances are libraries will have copies of some of these things too.
And I know that we talked a lot about building this vocabulary and modeling these things at home. And I know for some parents that might seem a little intimidating, or that's something that you might be working on. And those are such great resources. They also come with little plushie toys. And what I really like about it is the kids, they're like, we talk about how they're an emotion detective, and it really goes into more about you're feeling sad. It's recognizing it, not only in themselves, but in others. It talks about the way that your face looks during these emotions, how your body might be feeling, how your whole body, not just your face. Because I know when we think of emotions, we might just think of a facial expression, but there's a lot more things that go, are within tune with emotion. Like for anger, it talks about how your forehead scrunches up and how you might be holding a fist, or how different people might be carrying these emotions. So I think it does a really nice job into that emotion management. If you're looking for a resource, I definitely recommend it. And the kids absolutely love it, and they take to it whenever we bring out the little spots to talk about emotion management. But from home to school, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the academic piece and about the play piece. One thing in kindergarten is, we get this question all the time, is do they have chances to play? Yes, they do. We have recess. We have 2 different recesses, but we also have a time in the day that's called discovery time, when they get to make a play choice within the classroom. Some things that you can do at home to kind of build some of these skills within, we're of course going to talk about embedding SEL, but things at home to get your child ready for kindergarten, especially to play with others, of course, is just play. So just different options to play and explore their creativity. As the weather is getting nicer, I know getting outside and getting creative is super important. A lot of the things that happen just with a lot of kids sometimes will, I'm bored, but you know what? Finding a solution, sometimes we want to help our kids, have all these creative opportunities, but sometimes that creativity really comes from kids being bored, and it's okay. Give them, you could do this, or you could do this. What could you do? And sometimes when you leave them alone to think about maybe a choice, they get creative and they come up with really fun games. And so that's just one way to kind of help them, give them opportunities by offering them maybe different materials or different choices. Another thing is to kind of get in their pretend play. One of my favorite parts of kindergarten is sometimes just sitting back in the classroom and watching them pretend play, the things that they come up with, the language that they're using. And we talked a lot about how kids are sponges. Sometimes they're playing house, or sometimes they're playing school. And I'm hearing things, that I'm almost verbatim out of my mouth, or at home you might be saying too. So they really are, absorbing every little thing throughout their day, and occasionally kind of join in when they hand you pretend food. Oh, I pretend, I'm like, oh, that's so yummy. Can I order, this, and this? And I sometimes, can build in some math or some reading skills. Have them write a menu out for me. I said, well, what are you offering? And I'll have them, we need to make Mrs. Auden a menu. And they'll go over to their seats and they'll get their crayons out and they'll make me a menu for the day. Just little things like that. They really, again, Tracy talked about how they're just longing for that connection. So just kind of engaging in those activities with them really goes a long way. And another big one in kindergarten is giving them opportunities to draw, especially things in their environment. Because that beginning of the year in kindergarten, we're not expecting them to write, but, we might say, well, let's draw a picture of it. What is your favorite, what was your favorite part of the day? Things like that we're asking them to maybe draw, or, tell me about your picture. So we're asking them to kind of do all those things. So setting up a little drawing area and just giving them those opportunities now with different utensils, or writing utensils, I should say. So crayons, pencils, markers, just different things, paint, just getting them, different ways and modes of drawing and writing things in their environment so that when they get to school, they're excited to have those opportunities to write and, draw at school. And then there are some literacy and math skills that you could also be working on at home this summer just to get them kind of ready for their kindergarten year. One thing is just reading every day goes such a long way, and just engaging in book experiences. And I say book experiences just because there are so many different things you can do with books. Of course, if you're reading a book before bed, that's awesome. There's so many things you can embed, talking about the characters, talking about your favorite part, having them make predictions, having them choose the book and say, oh, why did you choose this one? Or things like that. There's also a lot of SEL pieces that fall really, really wonderfully within children's books. I know that Tracy had mentioned there's a list on that Second Step website. Those are wonderful for, embedding those specific SEL skills, but even just in children's books, so many opportunities to think through how the character might be feeling. What do you notice about Piggy's face? He looks sad. How do you know he's sad? Well, he's frowning. I see a tear. You're right. He probably is feeling sad. Let's see if he's going to continue to feel sad the rest of the story. And just kind of embedding in those different skills within just a book experience or a read aloud helps kids kind of, make connections through text, which are wonderful. And that language rich piece that you can have in a conversation with a book goes such a long way. Another way to kind of build literacy skills now is that phonemic awareness piece. So rhyming and song. So having, when I say by, songs, having nursery rhymes, I know that are considered older, but those nursery rhymes are so important because kids are hearing repetition. They're hearing rhyming words. They can say, oh, that line sounds the same. There's only, they're starting to hear that, sound letters make sounds and sounds make words. So getting that exposure to rhyming and turning things into a song, because a lot of that beginning of the year when we're learning our letters and we're learning our sounds, lots of built into songs. So that's a great way to help with literacy skill development. And I know I talked about the writing area, but having a specific writing area at home, if you have like a little play table and, today we're going to write, like today we're going to get out some paint. Let's write a name or, let's anything that you're doing that day, having that designated space so your child is writing consistently is really beneficial. And then the last one within that is just to sing, draw, and tell stories. So asking your child what they drew, what colors did you choose? What are you like? Tell me more about it, and having them maybe tell the story a little bit, and encouraging them to use their language and tell you rather than tell them what to do, is giving them that opportunity, like that creative play. And then within math, a big one is just that number sense. Leaving kindergarten having a good number sense is counting everything. Counting things around your house. When you are outside looking in the yard, let's pick up some sticks. How many sticks can we find? And group different piles, finding different ways to count in your everyday. Another way is to sort, finding different ways to sort items. So maybe just sorting, this time we sorted by color. This time we're going to sort by size, and then asking them, can we sort any other way? What other things do you notice about these things? And, I always use the words, well, what do you notice? Or what else do you think we can do? And kind of putting it on them is really, that'll get them kind of thinking about what those things, what other things they can do. I know Tracy already talked about board games, but there are so many rich skills within board games, not just math, but turn taking, sharing, handling loss. But even those opportunities to count. So if there are board pieces, that one-to-one correspondence, if you're playing Sorry, for example, oh, you rolled a 4, let's count 4 spaces, and having them physically take that piece and go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then there might be like, you're how many away from getting into the home base? And then they have to point and touch. I am 1, 2, 3, 4 more spaces. So just building in that math language is a great way within board reading the dice by moving spaces. And again, those SEL skills come into play with sharing and turn taking as well. And then the last thing is to have your child be a helper with everyday tasks. So a good one is to help them get involved in the kitchen. One way to do that is maybe helping them put away with the dishes and having them sort. You might say, okay, well, now grab all the forks, and they have to take all the forks. So getting them involved not only helps them become independent. They like to be, at this age, they absolutely love to help in any way, shape, or form. And any way you can build in math skills or just any kind of academic skills is a wonderful way to help get them ready for kindergarten. And then on top of the literacy and math skills, we'll talk, the last little piece is about building independence. So Tracy and I both talked a lot about how, getting them ready for kindergarten and helping them get there without our help. So doing these things independently. And I think the three big ones for starting kindergarten would be routines, following directions, and that self-help skills, because they, like Tracy said, are going to be expected to do things when they get to school by themselves. So things that you can maybe be doing at home now to prepare them for that independence that they're going to get by starting school is starting with routines. I know Tracy talked about the importance of routines and how kids really thrive on a predictable routine. One thing to do now would definitely be start getting into a routine for bedtime. Like Tracy said, this will definitely save you when it comes to starting school if we get into that routine now, but just having that predictable routine and helping them through it so that they know what to expect. That way, once we keep practicing, maybe do some of the steps by themselves, but at this time they might need you to encourage them to the next step. Another one when school starts is a before and after school, so that your mornings and your afternoons, they know what to expect on a school day versus maybe a weekend or time off of school. Another thing that Tracy mentioned that is a big one is checking your child's folder, but maybe having them build independence as they take their backpack out, they get their lunch out, maybe they help you pick out their snack. And there's a specific pocket in their backpack where their snack goes. So that way, when they get to school and, they say, oh, Mrs. Auden, I don't know where my snack is. You can talk with your child and say, oh, remember, we put your snack in a different pocket. It's right here. And just helping them become independent with those skills and the routines that they'll have at school. Another way to help your child become independent is to help them follow directions. So at school, as teachers, we're giving lots of directions all day long throughout the day. So giving your child opportunities now to follow directions and starting with a simple one-step direction and building their stamina to do maybe a 2 or a 3 step. But one thing within that direction giving is making sure they're following through. So each time they're following through, I might follow with, I really appreciate you listening and you following that direction. That made, Mrs. Auden so happy, or we got to gym on time because we followed that direction, or things like that. So giving specific praise as they're following directions is also a good way to continue to help them, as well as making eye contact. So sometimes I'll say, I need your eyes because these directions are super important. Are you being a good listener right now? And then I'm like, oh, I see your eyes. You're ready to listen. First, I need you to do this. And we might use that sequencing language, like first, put your name on your paper, then get out your crayon. We're giving them specific directions. So the more specific, the better. And that last category is that self-help, or those advocacy skills. So I know Tracy had talked about having them open their snack container, having them unzip their lunchbox, being able to take things out, knowing maybe, talking through your child when you open. A good thing to do in the summer is even prepping their lunch inside of their lunchbox that they'll be using at school, and say, okay, like, TV's off. We're going to sit at the table, set a timer for 15 minutes and say, okay, we have 15 minutes to eat lunch because when you get to school, this is what it's going to be like. Show me how you unzip your lunchbox, and have them unzip it. It might be hard to refrain from helping them do each little thing, but each time that you do it, they're going to gain more independence. And if they have a question about a container or something specific in their lunch, they have the opportunity to ask you or work through that problem with you first. That way, even if they're having a problem with it at school, they can even feel more comfortable to raise their hand and ask for help. Sometimes kids will come in with a new container and they come up to me and they're like, they're a little bit, a little like shocked. I don't know how to do this one. And sometimes what I like to do is, if it's like a goldfish bag, for example, I will just prop it open a little bit and I'll go, show me how you can open the rest. So just giving them the opportunity to build those skills are essential. And then the last one is just giving your child, I know we talked about it, small jobs around the house, because as they get to school, at school we have classroom jobs and they're a part of a community and everyone has a job. So having your child opportunities to have jobs around their house will help them feel more like a community member at school when their job, because I like to say sometimes our job at school is to learn, we do use that language. So just building their independence by doing those few things at home now really go a long way when they get to school, and it makes a huge difference in their day, and they don't feel as though, they can't do things. It gives them a little bit of confidence coming in and, being ready. Well, thank you so much. We were so excited to be able to present to you today to talk about all things getting ready for becoming an elementary school parent. I know this is a really exciting time for both you and your child, and I'm sure there's a lot of emotions, excited, nervous, but we would be happy to answer any questions. Both mine and Tracy's emails are up there, and we have a wonderful panel of experts to answer any questions you might have. But we really thank you for joining us and being becoming an elementary school parent.
Yes, thank you, Brooke, and thank you, Tracy. You presented so much great information to help us get our students ready for school in the fall. As we mentioned, we do have a panel of experts from all parts of our district, a principal, a student service coordinator, teachers, as well as a social worker. I've taken some of the questions that were part of our registration, and I'm just going to go ahead and read them and have our panel have the opportunity to jump in and answer it from their area of expertise. So one of the first things that was asked was, my child is feeling nervous and anxious about the transition from home to full-time school, which is totally natural, totally normal. How can I help my child feel more confident before the first day of school? All right, so anyone who'd like to jump in?
Yeah, I could start us off. So one thing that you could do to help your student is just let them go to the school every opportunity you get. So if there's the kindergarten orientation, you can bring them there. If there's a meet and greet or a supply drop off, make sure you're going to those. But also even just going to the playground, just so they know, or just walking to the school, saying, okay, if we're walking to school, this is how we walk there. If we're driving, this is what it's going to look like, just to kind of get rid of some of those anxieties about those routines. Another great thing you can do is you can take them to your local library and talk to the librarian and say, what are some good beginning of the school year books? And then read those with your student or with your child and say, hey, how did they feel at the beginning of the book versus the end? Like, what are some things that helped them feel safer at school? And then you can ask, did any of these things help you feel better as we were reading them and, more ready?
Okay, I'll go. I was just going to say that I think it's also important to just, make sure you validate those feelings of your young student and to let them know that they are not the only ones who are going to feel nervous and scared, that they are going to meet so many new friends that are also in that same boat. And I think it's really important to just make sure you validate their feelings and say, hey, it's okay to feel nervous or scared. And a lot of your other friends that you're going to meet are also going to feel that way, so that they don't feel alone in it, because they definitely are not.
The final thing I was going to add is I like to bring it back. I've got three of my own children. I like to bring it back to a time when they were anxious. And then I like to talk about, you were anxious before that dance class. You were nervous about that. You were going to meet new friends. You were going to potentially have to dance in front of your friends, but you overcame it. And I like to draw on those experiences so that they understand that, yes, it's going to be challenging, but you can overcome it and you will overcome it, just like maybe you had in the past.
All right, thank you. So the second question goes along with the first question. We want to make sure we're not just preparing our students, but also our parents, because we realize this is a big transition for you as well, especially for those of you who this is your first child entering school full-time. So somebody asked, as a parent, I am feeling lots of different emotions. I'm nervous, I'm excited, but I'm also a little sad about my child starting school. And again, all that is perfectly normal. What can I do to cope with these emotions without passing that on to my child?
I can start us off. So I think it's really important. Again, like what Dawn said, that's very natural. Every parent, I'm sure, is very scared, nervous, sad that their little one is going off to full-time school. I think it's important to, first thing, make sure you're taking care of yourself, and that you do take every opportunity you can to do any coping skills you have, like whether that's going on a walk, reading a book, whatever you think would help you with that anxiety. But I think something that also helps parents with that anxiety is connecting with the teacher, and making sure, once you learn who your student will be having as a teacher, connecting with them so that you can go over any concerns that you may have, and also you could go over like the routine that your student will be going through to help kind of lessen those nerves.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I do think it's okay to share with your kid too, like we had said before too, like validating their feelings and saying, I'm a little nervous too. How can we work through this together? You know, it's totally normal for both of you to feel nervous on that day. You know, we have a lot of parents who call, I think, accessing that classroom teacher, but also leaning on those supports that are there too, your principal, your student service coordinator, social workers, things of that nature, and just sharing that, giving us a heads up, like we're really nervous, you know, and just so people are out there ready to support. A lot of our schools do like a welcoming first day of school type of thing, you know, on that first day. And so just having that school staff ready for you too, to help with that piece. I loved what Luke said about just making it like a normal routine, that this is their school, going to the school over the summer. Look, check out your playground. You may already be doing that. That's awesome. You know, you're going to be a Peterson Panther. You're going to be a Grand Falcon, like just really building up that piece. When you see their confidence rise, your confidence will rise, like, okay, they're ready. I think I'm ready too. But, you know, you are going to see other kids crying there and being ready for that. I think trusting in that school staff, we've done it every year. You know, they're going to do great things. These kindergartners, these parents were scared of the beginning of the school year are rocking it right now. They're like the mayors of the buildings. It's unbelievable to see. So they really do start to own it. And just how can we help you through that? Mary, sorry, I cut you.
No, you're good. I was just going to say too, I think you guys touched on it really well during the slides about just how parents can model. So I think Rachel, it was perfect that you went before me, because kind of modeling through those emotions that you're feeling at the same time as your child can kind of model for them exactly how to cope, and whether it's nervous or anxious, or also kind of building that excitement, like you also said, kind of understanding that it's okay to be nervous, but also excited too. And then knowing that we also have really amazing communities here in Naperville and Aurora, and surrounding areas. So also connecting with those parents that you might meet at the playground or the pool over the summer, they can help kind of ease your nerves too, because chances are they have other kids in the district and they can answer some questions too.
And one thing I just thought to piggyback off that, I know I also have children of my own, and when they were in kindergarten over the summer, you know, through all of our neighborhoods have Facebook pages or different community, you know, social media platforms, is, you know, sending the thing, you know, a thing out. Anybody going to Peterson in the falls of kindergarten? Can we get together at the playground and play together? And just giving familiar faces makes that first day easier on both of you too. Like, you know, they might not be in your class, but you'll get to see them at recess or at lunch and things like that. Any way to build up that community. I mean, we just have such wonderful neighborhoods here. So working all together to make it easy on all of us.
I agree. Just to kind of piggyback off what Rachel said, when you join those Facebook groups or you meet these parents, especially the parents who've had kids that have already gone through kindergarten and first grade, they are such tremendous resources, and they're so willing to share and to help and to answer your questions. So don't be afraid to ask the more experienced or veteran parents who've been through school. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next question. And again, it kind of goes along with questions about parents. Somebody asked, how can I get involved at school and meet other parents?
Where's our PTA representation? Honestly, truly, that's the number one way. You can get involved as much as you want. PTA is like the perfect opportunity to do that. Not only do you get to meet more parents, but you also get to be more involved in those decision-making processes. So when you're talking about what do you want to see, how do you want to see class parties go? If you're on the PTA exec board, you have a voice in that. But then you also have that opportunity to create those special relationships and bonds with others. I think that's a wonderful way. If you're like, whoa, I'm a working parent, I've got 2 jobs, there's no way I can join the PTA, you can get involved in other ways. Lots of schools have mystery readers, some volunteer in the library. Our schools are really, this year, Dr. Talley's focus is really community building. So our schools are really focusing on that and trying to get you, whether that's personally, physically in the building, or whether that's just reading newsletters and connecting to peers and trying to figure out what's happening. And, you know, once you've joined that Facebook group, you can say, hey, this project's happening. I need help. Let's talk about it. So just finding those ways to connect with others, and just know that you can do that in all different ways. ways. You can be as involved as you want, or you can be kind of on the background and eventually take baby steps. But I'm sure every school has an opening for a PTA exec board, so you can feel free to join.
And another great way to get involved is a lot of our schools have positions for lunchroom supervisors or recess supervisors. And a lot of those are already filled by parents. And when those parents have students that graduate those buildings, a lot of times they leave those positions. So you could always check in with your local school and see if there's positions there that you could help fill.
All right, thank you. All right, our next question is about including all of our students in the classroom. So a parent asks, how are all students included in classroom activities? What inclusion opportunities are there for students with different abilities? And can you also speak to the inclusion opportunities for our English language learners?
So I can speak to the part about the inclusion with students with all abilities. So students, whether they have a disability or not, are included in our SEL activities, our what are those, extracurricular, the art, music, PE. So whether or not a student has been identified as what we call it with a disability or not, all of our students are included in the full curriculum of being, in music, art, those specials.
I'll go ahead and piggyback off of that. There's different levels of support. So your child could be in a general education classroom with an identified disability. That is very common. On average, we've got 2 to 5 students within a classroom that have an identified disability. That's extremely common. Their day is going to look identical to everyone else's day, but they might have some modifications, some accommodations, or they might have some pull-out times. You've also got several students that, things start when we identify things as a struggling, or a student is struggling with something, they might join what's something called the MTSS process, or an individual problem solving process. And then, yes, of course, they're still going to be involved in everything, but they're going to get like an added layer of support. You could, if you have a child with, for instance, at Nancy Young Elementary, I have 3 self-contained classrooms for students with significant autism. Most have require supports that they're still going to be included, as you were just said, in whatever they're most successful in. That's the team's job, to work with you to figure out, where is your baby going to shine? Are they going to shine in PE? Are they going to shine in music? And then, of course, we're going to include them. I think when talking about inclusion, it is critical to, of course, talk about that child who's being included, but we need to look at the community of learners. Inclusion is amazing because you get to learn from each other. And there are things, everyone has gifts to offer. And there are things that you would never even imagine when you start seeing students being included. The opportunity for them to learn from each other it truly melts your heart. It's one of the coolest opportunities to see.
Did anyone want to speak to the English language learners?
I can go ahead. My school's a minority majority. To be honest, we have so many English language learners. I think when we were talking about this in person, I think it was like every school said, oh yeah, we've got like 60 plus languages, 30 plus languages. Every school is so diverse. English language learners are there again, their day is not going to look any different, except for they might have a little bit of English language support. So that might look like pull out, that might look in push in. Every single student's day. What I love about District 204 is everyone is getting supported in a different way. That could be enrichment, that could be skill reinforcement, that could be just that extra little time with that teacher. So even though everyone's day looks the same, it could look slightly different. And the kids, it's like, oh, hi, bye. Oh, hi, Miss Ryan. Hi, this. They're so used to that flow of people going in and out because we truly are a community. Each staff works together to do what's best for the kid. So their day is not going to look drastically different. And rest assured, whether their child, if their child is an ELL learner, they're going to get the exact core curriculum plus a little bit extra on top.
And I was just going to say too, with the ELL learners, they'll get, they won't be pulled out during times of like core instruction. So whatever they might be missing, they'll either be getting the same just with an ELL teacher. So they're not missing out on their class time with their classmates in their regular setting.
All right. I know we're about out of time, so I just want to put one more question out there because I know as parents, school safety is constantly on our minds. So somebody asked the question, I'm concerned about school safety, as we all are. How do schools keep my child safe, and how are safety procedures discussed and taught to our young students?
I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I could kick it off if you want me to, Dawn.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll give it a go.
You're usual.
I need every parent out there to know that our number one goal, our number one most important thing is to keep your child both physically and emotionally safe. And that is, honestly, that weighs heavy on all of our minds as educators. What does that look like? Of course, we do all of the mandated drills that the state requires us to do, but we do more than that. Behind the scenes, parents never see, and they never will. We have emergency operation teams that are embedded within our staff. We have threat assessment teams where over the summer, teams go for hours of training just to learn how to navigate the various situations that could occur. We have all different things that can occur throughout the day. And in addition to the behind the scenes that occurs, we also have, let's talk about those drills for a little bit. I think what's one of our most important drills that I think our community members and people are wondering about is, of course, that Alice drill. And what does that look like? We will never practice a quote unquote Alice drill. Your kids will not hear that terminology, but they will start learning what to do. And the most important thing is you've got to listen to your teacher. And so, of course, we make it developmentally appropriate. We're going to say things like, and this actually happened. We had a bird come in our front entryway. That happened one time as a parent was opening the door. And what did we have to do? We had to listen to our teachers so that we knew what to do to keep us safe. That's more like the physical aspect. The emotional aspect. You are going to see, your children are going to see unexpected behavior. They're going to see students do things and act various ways that they might not act themselves. I think that is the perfect opportunity to have that learning conversation with your child. What did they see? Process with them. We're going to do that as a staff too, especially if they see something unexpected. But I also want you to know that if it's your child that does something unexpected, we're going to keep them emotionally safe. We might say, oh, this hallway's closed. This friend's having a rough spot. Or we might say, okay, boys and girls, you're going to come out and do some learning right here. And we just keep it as natural as can be, because they're going to look to us to be calm in those moments. And believe you me, I can speak for Nancy Young. I can speak for the district. We talk about safety a lot, and our teachers are highly trained on how to handle those various situations. Dawn, I don't know if I answered all the parts, but if I'm missing something, someone else step in and take it away.
No, I think you answered that well. Does any classroom teachers want to jump in and share anything?
I just want to say, don't ever be afraid to reach out to your teacher. If you are having a conversation with your child and something comes up that's concerning, always reach out. We're here. We work harmoniously. I see you also as your child's first teacher, as their kindergarten teacher. So I look to you a lot at this early age. So yes, please reach out whenever you have any questions or concerns in regards to the safety, the emotional safety. Even if you are feeling your child was having a rough morning or is just not all there, you can quickly email your teacher and say, hey, please handle with care. And we will take it from there. We will give them a little extra love that morning so that we can all be on the same page again to provide your child with that emotional safety, make them feel that they're safe and that they belong and are loved at school.
All right, Samantha, I think that you wrapped it up perfectly and you ended that on such a positive note. So thank you. Thank you again for being a part of our becoming a elementary school parent. We really do look to partner with our parents and our families to help our children successfully transition into school. Thank you to Tracy and to Brooke for their presentation, as well as our panel. This presentation was recorded and will be available on the district website. Have a wonderful evening, and we hope to see you in the fall. Good night.